I had a beautiful conversation with the children in the chapel, and we pondered upon the fact that human beings are the weakest creatures on this planet. We can't climb trees, we don't have claws, we don't have long fangs, teeth, we cannot run very fast, we cannot fight with other animals and win, but somehow we have survived throughout the many centuries, although much more stronger animals have gone extinct. So I asked the kids, what is that makes us survive? And the answer was, what we come up with, well, we don't need claws to climb a tree, we can figure out how to do it. We don't need beaver's teeth to cut a tree, we can find out a tool, figure out a tool that we can cut the tree. So what does it tell us? It tells us that although we are not physically fit to survive, but we are very smart. We can think how to survive. The other thing that I told them why human beings survive, I found in a book called Sapiens. It said that humans had one characteristic that other creatures on the planet did not have. That was the characteristic of gossip. What is that? It's that I see something or I hear something and I come and whisper to you and you go to your friend and it goes and then it spreads all over the world. So what happens? How did this help humans to survive? I went to the river to get some water and I saw a lion over there. I ran away and I came and tell all my compatriots or my tribe members, there is a lion over there, and I exaggerate. That's one of the characteristics of the gossip. When we gossip, we don't tell the truth, we exaggerate it. So saying, that we saw a lion that had teeth like this, had claws like that, and he run million miles an hour, he climbed trees, we scare people, and therefore they wouldn't go to the river for a long time. The third characteristic that helped us to survive is when we find out there's a lion at the river, we wouldn't go there, but we would team up together, we would make a clique, we would create a group, and we would go to the river with a group, and if there was a lion, they would shoo it away and get the water, so we wouldn't go extinct because there's a lion at the river and we don't have water. So we have those characteristics as a human beings to survive. That's what we call survival mechanism, survival skills. What do the scientists tell you? The fittest survive, right? What happened to the weakest? We kill them. We get rid of them. We are fit, we survive. So I told them two stories in the chapel, and I'm going to tell you those two stories. One is a joke and one is a real story. A guy had two apples. One was small, one was big. So he was with his friend and he was going to eat his apple. He gives the small one to his friend. And the friend looks at it and is like, that's not nice. You keep the big one and give me the small one? He says, well, what would you do? He says, well, I would give you the big one. He says, well, isn't that what happened? I have the big one and you have the small one. So the guy is wise, right? He survives. He keeps the big one to himself and gives the small one, and that's the right thing to do because his friend would have done the same, but because he would do that way, he wouldn't survive, he would survive. The second story I told my friends in the chapel is a story from a first grade or second grade that I learned about a man who had a lot of harvest. He had 10 containers of wheat. And at night when he brings it to his house, he looks at it and he says, this is too much for me all winter, I don't need this much. So he says, I have a brother who may not have as much, let me take one container to my brother. So he waits until it gets dark. Why? Because he doesn't want anybody seeing him doing a favor to his brother, he wants to do it in secret. And I asked the kids, who does gifts in secret? And they came up with his name, St. Nicholas. I think that he did that. So Christ told us to do that. Do it in secret. Don't blow horns in front of you when you're doing something good. And I told them the difference between a chicken and a bee. When a chicken lays an egg, we have chickens, I know. When they lay an egg, they cluck and they cluck and they scream. The whole neighborhood wakes up. Lays just one egg. And Ella runs and gets it. She knows that they have laid an egg. Well, what bees do, they go from miles and miles and miles, go from flower to flower. They get these tiny ounces of honey and they work on it very hard and they create this awesome treasure-looking honey. Nobody knows about it. Nobody sees it. Nobody hears about it. So those are the two kinds, and that's what Christ said. Christ told us to be like the honeybees and do things in a treasure way, but in a quiet way. So this man was doing that. He was taking at night this wheat to his brother. On the way, when he was going, he saw another man coming across, and he kind of went out of the way. He said hello, and he passed. And then he dropped it at his brother's house. There were some containers of wheat he put next to it so that his brother wouldn't know that there was some extra. And he went home, and he was tired. He sat down, and he starts counting again his containers. He sees there's still 10. He says, I guess I had 11, so I still have 10. I can give my brother another one. So he takes another one, and he goes to his brother. On the way, he sees another person coming across, and he says hello, and he passes by, brings it to his brother, leaves it there. He comes back, he sits down, and he counts, there's still 10. It's like, oh my goodness, it's a miracle. By the time he was doing the third one, on the way, the sun was already rising, so he's been working all night. And as he approaches, he sees this other guy coming, and he looks at this is his brother. With a container of wheat in his back, he's coming to his house. So all night they had been exchanging wheat between the two brothers. And both of them were doing to do it in a secret way, so that the others wouldn't know that they were doing this. So you can see the difference between these two stories. One giving the small apple to his friend and saying that's how you would do, so it's normal. And the other one secretly sharing his gifts with others, but yet receiving in return from his brother who thinks the same way, a sacrificial way. So what is the message of this, and how is this connected to today's gospel? I searched in the internet, what is the meaning of Homosapian? Because the scientists call us Homo sapiens, right? It meant a wise human being. What is a wise human being? A wise human being is the guy who gives the small apple to his friend. A wise human being is the one who goes to the river and finds out there's a lion and begins a gossip amongst his friends and saves the tribe. The wise human being is the one who figures out how to cut a tree instead of grazing through the tree to cut. Creates a tool. So this is probably what it means in the Garden of Eden when God says to humans, don't eat from the tree of knowledge. Don't become wise men. Don't be wise guy, like they say, right? But eat from the tree of life and maintain the image of God in you, which is a self-sacrificial person. So what is the difference between a Homo sapien and a human being? The Homo sapien is the human animal that they teach us about in the schools, that tries to survive. The fittest survive like an animal kingdom. The human being is the person who is created in the image of God and is like this second-story person who sacrificially gives out, doesn't hoard, doesn't survive, doesn't protect himself, but gives out. If you want to know what it looks like, you look at the Panagia. She has her arms open. She's not protecting herself. She's not, doing anything. She has her open arms. She's ready to embrace everyone. She is a human being. She's not a Homo sapien who's trying to survive. She is open to give. In today's gospel, when I read it in English, I changed one word twice. In there it says that when Jesus came to this paralytic and asked him, do you want to be healed? He says, I have no man, in the English translation. I translated it, I read it, I have no human being, because the Greek word is, then Anthropos. I don't have a human being to take me to the pool. But he had a lot of Homo sapiens scattered everywhere. What were these Homo sapiens doing? They were trying to survive. When the pool moved, when the angel came down, they survived. They jumped into the pool to save themselves. But there was no one human being in the image and likeness of God to say, hey, you have been sitting here 38 years. Is there any way I can help you? Do you get in first? I have my feet. I have a store on my arm, that's why I'm here, but I have my feet. I can run next time. But you, let me carry you to the water. And Christ says, your sins are forgiven. The fathers say that the reason this person says, I have no human being, is because Christ is the perfect human being. And that he was waiting for a perfect human being to show up and to give forgiveness to his sins. So dear brothers and sisters, today we are learning from the paralytic that we need the perfect human being in our lives. Because we also are paralyzed, and scientists are right. We also are Homosapians on our way to become human. I very long time ago read a story about Anthony Bloom. A person who knew him was telling a story. He said, when I went to confession, he heard my confession, he listened to it, and then as I was leaving, he turned around, he was entering to the altar, he turned around and said, Joe, whatever his name was, pray for me so that I will become human. It never made sense to me. Why would he say I become human? He was a metropolitan of England. He was human, but he meant human in the image and likeness of Christ. That is our goal, our destination. As Christians gathered together, we cannot be like the crowd at the Bethesda. Everyone to himself. It's in the Jungle Book, right? And the Sher Khan says, everyone on his own. Everyone takes care of himself. He's not part of the flock. He's not part of the pack of the wolves. He's on his own. He's strong enough. He can survive by himself. But the others click together, stick together. They travel together. They protect each other. They sacrifice for each other their own lives. I'm going to come to what happened yesterday here. I was one more time impressed. So many people came to help with a hero. We had so many people down there. More people came to help than came to buy hero. We had more help than people outside. At the end of the day, we were kind of scared because we didn't have many customers, but we had raised over $8,000. Very impressive, very impressive. And that came to tell me that we are not Homo sapiens. We are humans who know how to sacrifice their Saturday and Sunday and come and work and support the church so that humanity will continue to get closer and closer to Christ. If we don't have church here, if we don't have church in Cambridge, in Somerville, in Arlington, in Edinburgh, humanity will stop their journey and will remain a Homo sapien. They probably will survive. They'll go to the Mars. They'll go everywhere. They'll pollute the whole entire universe. They will be here, but not as humans, but as Homo sapiens. May the Lord bless you and strengthen you in your journey to Christ.